Hello and welcome in, everybody. A signing day special here. Give me 2 seconds. I'm doing this on my own.
Yes, sir.
All right, so as you can see, Xavier Story, 5-star outside linebacker prospect, is set to announce his commitment shortly here. He is deciding between Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. Before we go any further, let's introduce myself and set the table a little bit here. My name is Connor Riley. I am hosting this Kroger Commitment Special here for Dog Nation today. Big day for Georgia so far. I believe right now they have 14 of their 19 commitments in the class at this point in time. A little bit of bad news. Dejon Nugget Warren flips his commitment from Georgia to Jackson State, of all places, earlier in the day. Also, Jimmy Horn, a 3-star wide receiver that Georgia had gotten involved with late. He ends up picking South Florida, but Georgia's set to get some very good news here in the next, potentially very good news here in the next couple of minutes. Xavier Story set to announce. Also, Donovan Edwards, a 4-star running back out of the state of Michigan. He is set to announce. A lot of balls in the air for Georgia right now. They still have the number 3 overall recruiting class at this point in time. As you can see, we've got Jeff Sintel down there live on the scene for Sorey to make his announcement. Let me change up the camera here for a little bit. There we go. Take Sorey full. As you can see, he's got the hats on the table there. He's got Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. That Florida hat, if we're doing hat science, is a little janky, so that would not be my guess there. Sorey, the number 20 overall prospect in this recruiting class. A must-get for Georgia, just given what they stand to lose at linebacker. He's versatile enough to play at both inside linebacker and outside linebacker for Georgia in this class. So a big announcement on the way here from Sorey. Georgia lands him. He'd be the first commitment that Georgia lands today. So we will sort of see how things turn out here. He is set to make his announcement at 1:45 shortly coming up. You can watch it here on the Dog Nation Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter page. We have wall-to-wall coverage online as well. We've got stories going up all day. We have the live blog that can keep you updated throughout the afternoon on what Georgia is set to do. Kirby Smart is set to address the media later today. I'm guessing we'll have some sort of update on whether or not Georgia has a game this weekend. Obviously, their game against Vanderbilt has been canceled, but obviously right now the big news of the day, Xavier Sorey set to make his announcement. The number 20 overall prospect in the 247 Sports composite rankings. He would be a huge addition to Georgia's class, just given what this team stands to lose at both the outside linebacker position and the inside linebacker position. Sorey's a guy 6'3", 220 pounds, a guy who has the versatility to play both outside and inside. He's someone who's spent this past year at IMG Academy with 2 other Georgia commits in Lavassier Carroll and Marlon Dean, a guy that can maybe not right away, but has the potential to sort of play multiple spots in this Georgia defense and be a versatile impact defender for Georgia here. So as we wait for Sorey to make his announcement here, we will take some of your comments and questions. Get that pulled up for you here on Facebook, see what people have to say. Yeah, Tree Cracker brings up, need a replacement for Monty Rice. Monty Rice is going pro after this year. He has entered, he will be in the Senior Bowl. He's a Butkus Award finalist. I think internally, you obviously bring back N'Kobe Dean. You have Quay Walker, but inside linebacker depth is going to be tested. I will say, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, the linebacker they signed out of Baltimore earlier today, that was a big win for Georgia to get him in this class. He is not necessarily as highly ranked as some of the other linebackers that Georgia has, but I think he is a very good player and someone who's similar to Monty Rice, not the highest rated recruit in the world, but someone who can come in, make an impact, and he's not the greatest athlete in the world, but he's just a really, really solid football player that Georgia has. And it looks like right now Donovan Edwards is making his announcement in a snow-covered Michigan football field, so we'll wait and see where he picks. It is Georgia, Michigan, and Edwards ends up picking Michigan, the number 4 running back in the country. Donovan Edwards, he has picked Michigan. There was some thought that Georgia could get involved there late. That's a big win for Michigan. I know Georgia had wanted to take 2 running backs in this class, but Edwards from the state of Michigan, I think the lack of visits and the inability to visit really hurt there. So Donovan Edwards, one of Georgia's top targets, off the board here, but they may not have to wait much longer to get some good news. Xavier Sorey set to announce his commitment shortly following this announcement here. Before we go any further, now that Edwards has committed to Michigan, let's take some time here to thank our sponsors. Deck the halls with holiday savings this year at Kroger. Kroger has everything you need from platers to decorations and cookie kits for decorating. You can get all your holiday needs at Kroger. Stop by Kroger or use free pickup to get your stuff online there. So resetting things here a little bit, Donovan Edwards here, 4-star running back from Michigan, has just picked Michigan. He will stay home. It was widely expected that he would commit there, though there was some thought that Georgia could get involved late. He ultimately ends up picking Michigan, so I wouldn't call that a loss for Georgia. That was always going to be a tough recruiting battle. I think the more interesting thing with Georgia's running back position now is what do they do? What do James Cook and Zamir White do? If both of those decide to go, not getting Edwards stings a little bit more. If both those guys decide to come back, if one of those guys decides to come back, I think Georgia's maybe a little bit better off there than just bringing in another talented player. And we've seen this year Kendall Milton, Dejon Edwards, Kenny McIntosh, all those guys have filled in serviceably. The Georgia running back position is still in a very good spot going forward, even though they do not land the services of Mr. Edwards today. So let me pull up your questions here, comments, thoughts on signing day so far. I will say this does make it a little bit more difficult for Georgia to finish with the number 3 overall class at the end of the day. I think there's an expectation if LSU lands Mason Smith, that's going to allow the Tigers to leapfrog Georgia, just given some of the additions that they have today. So, hold on. There we go. All right, and we are up on YouTube here. Let's see.
Yes, sir.
Questions, comments, thoughts on how Georgia. So Damon Hans asked, what does Georgia losing Dijon Nugget Warren mean for Georgia? There had been some chatter that he had been looking elsewhere, most notably at Penn State, but Georgia thought that they had sort of secured his commitment there, and I think with him in the fold now at Jackson State, you're only down to 4 defensive backs in this class. You stand to lose Mark Webb, DJ Daniel, Richard LeCount, excuse me, that was my computer there, and potentially Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell should they choose to go declare for the NFL draft. So it'll be very interesting to see what sort of happens with Georgia. Terrion Arnold is a big 4-star target, but he projects more as a safety. Georgia has already signed its top 2 targets for at cornerback position already today. Nyland Green out of Covington, Georgia, and Kamari Lassiter out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Those guys are in the fold, 4-star cornerbacks. Nyland Green, the higher rate of the two, a long 6'2", 183-pound cornerback. I think that does sort of help sort of offset what you lost there in Warren earlier today. But again, similar, I think, to running back position. If Stokes or Campbell, if one or two of those guys come back, losing Warren doesn't sting quite as badly as it might have if they do end up leaving. So resetting the table here a little bit. Xavian Sorey is the prospect you see there on your screen. He's a 5-star linebacker set to announce his commitment here shortly. He is deciding between Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. The number 20 overall prospect in the 247 Sports composite rankings. A sort of must-get for Georgia here, especially just given how this day is sort of shaped up so far. But things looking good for Georgia in this recruitment. He has not said a whole lot. He's taken multiple visits to Georgia. He did take a visit to Florida last weekend. And one interesting nugget here, we touched on Terrion Arnold just a second ago. Very close friends with Xavian Sorey. He has talked about potentially playing with him at the next level. So Georgia landing Sorey today, I think, could go a potentially long way in landing Terrion Arnold, who someone Jeff Sintel has absolutely raved about and said could absolutely be a day one difference maker for Georgia next year. So we'll sort of wait in here a little bit for Mr. Sorey as they are waiting to bring him on and make his announcement again. 3 finalists, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. We will wait and see how things go there. So let's see. Questions, thoughts, comments. Dairy products on YouTube brings up it's a tougher than normal year for Georgia, for all schools really, but especially a school like Georgia that in the past couple of cycles has relied heavily or more heavy on recruiting outside the state of Georgia. And when prospects aren't able to visit, that does make things a little bit more difficult. Now, Georgia did sign 7 of the top 11 prospects from the state of Georgia. So they have, I think, adjusted on the fly pretty well here, but a lot of their top targets, a guy like a Donovan Edwards, just not being able to come visit Corey Foreman, Mason Smith, not being able to get those guys on campus with official visits does sting a little bit. And maybe in a normal year, you think Georgia has maybe a better shot at getting some of those prospects that they maybe did not get this year. So, yeah, we're getting pretty close here. There we go. So, Xavian Sorey set to meet and talk and preview his announcement. We'll take him live here.
Thank God for blessing me with the opportunity to play the sport that I love. Second, I want to thank my family for just believing in me, pushing me to go hard, instilling in me to stay humble through the ups and downs. And I want to give a special shout out to IMG Academy. It's teaching me so much more about football. For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be taking my talents to.
So as you see right there on your screen, Xavian Sorey picks Georgia, commits to Georgia, the number 20 overall prospect in the class, Georgia's first commitment on the day. A big win for the Bulldogs there, beating out Alabama, beating out Florida. He feels a major position of need for the Bulldogs. As you can see, from Graceville, Florida, spent this last year at IMG Academy. Xavian Sorey, a huge pickup for this Georgia class here. A real athlete, someone who can attack the quarterback, play linebacker, play an off-ball coverage, can do a lot of different things for the Bulldogs. A huge addition for them in this class, someone who's really going to help them out. I think is fill a lot of those defensive needs, especially at linebacker, is arguably the biggest position of need in this recruiting class, just given what Georgia stands to lose, especially after the news that Jermaine Johnson is going into the transfer portal. And you lose him. Monty Rice is a senior. Nate McBride is a senior. What does Azeez Ojulari decide to do? A lot of sort of up in the air decisions to be made about this linebacker group. So you bring in a guy like Xavian Sorey. You add him to an athletic linebacker like Shmuel Munden. Both those guys can be versatile pieces in your Georgia defense going forward. That is a big, big filler of a need there for Xavian Sorey. So you have to really like what Georgia gets there from Sorey. A big addition, a big pickup for the Bulldogs. They still have the number 3 overall class. They now have 15 total, or I guess 20 commitments once again in this class. We're sort of waiting on some more paperwork for the rest of those prospects to come on in. But Sorey commits to the Bulldogs, a big win for Georgia, an athletic linebacker, a guy who fills a lot of needs, a contested recruiting battle between Alabama and Florida schools that Georgia's going to play every year. This is a big win for Kirby Smart, for Dan Lanning, for Glenn Schumann, and I can't help but think back to the video that Georgia had put out last week, sort of teasing that they needed a barber. Xavian Sorey's nickname, for those uninitiated, is Barber. I think Georgia sort of knew what they were getting there. I love the creativity. Hopefully we get a sort of an inside scoop on that video, what led to it and what came about it from Kirby Smart later on in the day. But a nice little pickup here for Georgia. Another 5-star in the fold. I believe that is their 4th in the class. He joins Amarius Mims, Brock Vandegrift, Shmuel Munden, and Mr. Sorey himself. Give me 2 seconds here. So, yeah, Georgia lands Xavian Sorey out of Graceville, Florida. He played this last year at IMG Academy. 6'3", 215-pound linebacker, just a real playmaker. Can play him, I think, both at the outside linebacker position and the inside linebacker position. So, let's take your comments and questions here. Yeah, Christopher Rules on YouTube. I wonder if Sorey went to Florida to troll Florida. He was in Florida this past weekend. He was on hand to see the throwing of the shoe, the iconic game between Florida and LSU now. And that's been a consistent theme for Georgia in these last couple of classes, where a prospect takes a visit to Florida at the last minute and then at the very next week ends up committing to Georgia. So you have to like sort of maybe what Sorey was going for there. And I think the big thing now with Sorey going to Georgia, what does this mean for Terry and Arnold? He is not announcing his commitment until February 3rd, but Arnold and Sorey are tight. They are good friends. They have discussed playing together. They were both on Florida's campus last week. I think that's a big win for Georgia in terms of landing Sorey, because Sorey is going to be the biggest recruiting battle over these next couple of weeks. Georgia, I think, really needs a playmaking safety like Terry and Arnold and what he is able to do. So I think having a guy like Sorey, a friend like Sorey, a guy like Sorey who's already going to be on campus, he's going to be an early enrollee. So bringing him in does help solve a lot of things for Georgia, both in terms of what he brings to the linebacker room, but also how he can recruit. I will say Lavassier Carroll is someone who deserves a little bit of credit here. He was someone who was very public in recruiting Mr. Sorey there. They were both teammates at IMG Academy. Carroll, a 4-star running back out of originally Warrenton, Georgia. So having him, I think he did a really great job in bringing him in. You land Sorey, you now have 20 commitments in your class. As of right now, you still have the number 3 recruiting class in the country, another elite group of prospects expected to come to Georgia. So we'll sort of see where things go from here. We do have another big announcement later on in the day. Mason Smith, arguably the biggest announcement of the day, a 5-star defensive tackle from Houma, Louisiana. It is expected to be a Georgia-Louisiana battle, and the most interesting thing there with that decision is whoever he goes to is probably going to end the day with the number 3 overall recruiting class. Now, Georgia does still have Arnold to go after later on in the recruiting cycle, but sort of an interesting thing to watch there. Alabama and Ohio State are going to finish 1 and 2 at the end of this day. They have already put in so much work and are so much further ahead than everyone else. But a big day for Georgia so far. They land their biggest recruit and commitment in Xavian Sorey. So let's take some of your comments, questions, thoughts here. Foghorn Leghorn, if the shoe doesn't fit, you must eject. Yeah, that's pretty good there. Give me 2 seconds. Again, Xavian Sorey commits to Georgia. He spent this past season at IMG Academy, originally from Graceville, Florida. We'll go maybe about 5 more minutes here to sort of see what you guys have to say, thoughts, questions, what's going on. Big day. Kirby Smart's about to speak at 4. There's probably going to be an announcement on what Georgia is doing this weekend. It looks very, very likely like the Bulldogs will not have a game this weekend. So that is sort of what we expect there. So, the biggest recruiting battle for the rest of the day is Mason Smith, and what does he decide to do? It sounds like it's a Georgia LSU battle. LSU has not missed on a 5-star in-state prospect since 2014. So Georgia would certainly be in rarefied air if they do go out and land a player of Smith's caliber. So something to sort of watch later on in the day. Yeah, Shannon Waits asked, does Kirby have a surprise up his sleeve? Mason Smith would be a pretty big surprise, and so Kirby's going to need a pretty big sleeve there. Let's see. Questions, thoughts, comments. Xavier Brown, so we didn't get Horn Jr. Yes. Jimmy Horn Jr. committed to South Florida earlier today. Georgia got involved late there, offered him on December 2nd, but he's ultimately going to sign with, I believe, Jeff Scott and the Bulls down there in Tampa. Georgia wanted to add another receiver. They do have signatures from all 3 of their wide receivers already, or pass catchers, excuse me. Brock Bowers, 4-star tight end out of Napa, California, Donnie Mitchell out of Tennessee, and Jackson Meeks out of Alabama. They do have all those guys in the class committed, ready to go. So you have that there. Let's see. Comments, questions. Hayes Callaway, are we going after Foreman? Georgia's going to be a hat on the table there. He is set to make his announcement on officially on January 2nd, but he is going to sign today. It is believed that the sort of recruits that or the teams that are battling for his services would be Arizona State, USC, Clemson, and then Georgia right there. I don't expect Foreman to end up in this class, but hey, we've seen crazier surprises. Last year at this time, no one thought Zach Evans was coming to Georgia, and what do you know? He ends up picking Georgia and then ultimately backing out of this class. So it'll sort of be interesting to see what goes on there. Caleb Janey brings up a good point. Got to leave room for transfers. Yeah, I don't expect Georgia to sign a full 25-man class this year. You look at graduate transfers, transfer portal guys, especially as changes sort of come through there. I will say Arik Gilbert is a tight end who I think just about everyone knows here, not yet in the transfer portal, but that is something, if it does happen, and there was an expectation a week ago that it was going to, you figure that is going to be a very contested battle just given who he was as a prospect just a season ago. And, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things you now have to weigh is you sign one fewer recruit so that you can go out and get that former 5-star prospect potentially in a Reek Gilbert type. You absolutely do. So let's see. Comments, questions. Xavier Brown, do I think we're going to get Mason? Again, it's going to be tough, but Kirby's had a couple of surprise polls on signing days before. George Pickens comes to mind. It'll be really close. Again, second place gets you nothing in these recruitments, but there's no shame also in not being able to pull a recruit out of Louisiana, given just how rare that is. Last year they did land Cedric Von Prine Granger. I know Scott Cochran has done a tremendous job recruiting that state of Louisiana. He has deep ties to the state from his time at Alabama. So I'm not counting Georgia out yet. I know it's not looking good. It's not looking likely, but there have been bigger recruiting day or national signing day surprises than what Georgia could potentially do there. So let's see. Mason Smith is going to announce at 4:30 Eastern time, and Terrion Arnold, he will not be announcing until February 3rd on the national signing day in February. What's the schedule? Jermaine King asked, what's the schedule for the rest of the day? Yeah, Jeff Sentell is going to come back on at around the 3:30 hour. Then we're going to have him back on at the 5:30 hour, and then he's going to wrap everything up at the end of the day at an 8 o'clock before the Hedges special. You're going to want to tune into these, not just because to hear Jeff's insights and what he sort of learns from Sorey down there in Florida, but he's going to have recruits on. He's going to have guys like Brock Vandegrift, Amarius Mims, Lavassier Carroll, David Daniel, guys who've signed throughout the day. So make sure to tune into that, not just to hear from Jeff, but to hear from some of the other signees in this Georgia class. So, I might be able to pull out an old BA favorite here. There was a request for it. Let's see how quickly I can do this on the fly while also talking. While we are here, again, resetting the news, Georgia lands a commitment from Xavian Sorey, 5-star outside linebacker, a big win for Georgia in this class. Beat out Florida and Alabama to land the 5-star linebacker services. So it will sort of be interesting to see what comes next for Georgia in this class. 4:30 Eastern time, that is when Mason Smith is set to announce. So we will be on the lookout for that. Again, that's a Georgia-LSU battle. And, all right, here we go. A BA classic when Georgia very famously landed George Pickens. Oh, man. All right, here we go. And when Georgia famously landed George Pickens.
George Pickens, this is official? This is real. George Pickens has flipped to Georgia. As we're doing this live right now, George Pickens, the 5-star wide receiver, we're just finding out about this. George Pickens has flipped to the University of Georgia.
Yeah, nothing like an old stroll down memory lane. We wish BA could be here with us today, but he is dealing with his loss of his father. We wish him nothing but the best. Him and the entire Adams family. Thoughts and prayers go out to him. We wish he could be here today, but can't even imagine what he's going through. And again, wish BA nothing but the best here on signing day. So we will wrap things up here. It is 2 o'clock Eastern time. Georgia lands Xavian Sorey, a big commitment for the Bulldogs. The number 20 overall player, another 5-star in the class. Big day for Georgia. They've potentially got bigger news coming up later on with Mason Smith set to make his announcement. Stay tuned to Dog Nation. We'll have a live blog, reaction from Sorey, reaction from Smith. Jeff Sentell is going to be back with you guys in a couple hours. A full day, a full slate here on Dog Nation. Make sure to stay tuned. Xavian Sorey commits to Georgia, a big day on early signing period for Georgia. My name is Connor Riley, and I will see you guys later.